I love consuming content through my ears, and I didn't know that until 2014. So my guess is that there are more people that would love consuming content through their ears. So if I can expose a few more people to that, that's great.
1, 2.
Hey, Lynz, what are you listening to?
Brian, you share yours and I'll share mine.
You know, with so many podcasts out there, how do you decide what is going to take your time?
You know, at Feed Drops, that's what we're trying to solve every week, where we take two different podcasts and we bring them together and talk to them with clips and everything so that you can learn about them.
You know, and we've got two exciting shows for you today. And I guess, first off, welcome back, Podcast Movement 2022. It's so good to see you in person. Appreciate you coming into the studio, and we had the opportunity to break bread. I miss you, buddy. Glad you're back.
Same. Glad to be here. And without further ado, we're just going to jump into the shows this time. I think that's why everyone's here. They want to learn about these podcasts. So, Brian, tell us about the one that you picked.
You know, I'm not one to normally listen to content that's talking about TV, movie reviews, anything like that. However, I could not resist this show entitled Just Go Watch, because they submitted an episode to us of something I've yet to watch, but it's on my radar to watch when it's available to watch on one of the platforms I watch stuff on. Did I crush it?
That's a lot of watching.
That's a lot of watching.
It's like a Rolex. So much watch.
The Gray Man. Have you seen it?
I have not. What's The Gray Man?
I haven't either, but it's this Jason Bourne-ish super spy, and I love the genre. So I chose this, and we're going to roll into clip number 1.
Things that we love, don't we? We love it when the cold.
That's what a man should be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's cold. He's calculating. You know, that's how we want it, and it was a nice difference from how, like, usually when CIA are in films, it's all like grey suits and, you know, white blokes walking around like a building and stuff. This is a lot more fun. I did enjoy it a lot. The CGI bothered me in places, usually in the places where they were like stretching for this sort of, I don't know, like the damage scale on this was out of this world. I feel like it could have done with like just like scaling back some of these like events that were going on and like using real world stunts and stuff. I think it would have given the movie a better film or a better feel, should I say. Chris Evans as bad guy. It's the second time he's played bad guy, and I've liked both of them now. He seems like quite good at playing a prick.
You know what? And I have to agree with him, not necessarily on The Gray Man because I've yet to watch it, but sometimes less is more.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to do too many things and you don't hit the mark on enough of them to sort of carry the whole thing through, you know.
You know, and the other thing I liked about this clip was the gentleman who's from across the pond is talking crap about how all CIA guys are wearing gray suits and they're white men.
Yeah.
Stereotypes.
Well, and also, I mean, I love the description of, you know, that a likable actor is playing a bad guy, and like that's enough to make me a little bit more interested in the film myself.
Definitely. Let's roll into clip 2.
Lloyd Hansen, the Chris Evans geezer, it was a bit like how you were saying with him. His character was very much, oh, you know, he's in that position. He's just going to do everything like that he can. But then that Carmichael guy was doing the same, but from like, you know, a higher up chair.
Yeah.
And then even he was meant to have someone pulling his strings as well. Do you know?
I just didn't buy that.
Somebody much higher up is pulling Carmichael strings. I was like, I didn't really get why he was in that thing. He wasn't. It didn't really seem that dangerous.
It wasn't well thought out. I don't think it was thought out well, because again, yeah, he's doing all of these things that are going to basically essentially result in an international incident. Like, just know it's so like, you know, what's the president doing here when he's talking to the head of the CIA? What, he's just going to be like, oh man, yeah. I'm glad you got the chip back that I don't even know anything about, and you've killed loads of whatever, like Russians for it or whatever. Like, I mean, it's just fucking, I don't know. Yeah, I just didn't get it. And that guy, I just didn't see him. Like, I felt like he was too young as well.
You know, are they cast typing?
Well, you know, movies like this require a suspension of disbelief, right? Like you're going in knowing this, hey, none of this happened, right? In real life, this is not a thing. This is a fake movie where people are pretending to do things. And so if you're going in trying to pick it apart too hard, I think you've missed the point.
You know, and that's true. My wife is a true crime person, and we watch a lot of TV that is based on this story. And in the back of your mind, you have to remember that, because the director, the writers, they're going to take liberties, to tell a more visually compelling story if it's made for the screen. And yes, just like if you're watching Spider-Man, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy can't spin web.
Yeah, well, the science isn't correct about how he picked up the spider thing. You're like, no, the whole thing's fake. Come on, like let's be like that happened. Let's be in for a penny, in for a pound.
I do love the way the hosts banter back and forth, and they kind of get into it a little bit. And again, this is a podcast I normally wouldn't listen to. I would just skip over. However, giving it a try has made me actually hit that subscribe button, and I've been cruising through trying to find something that I've watched to listen to their take on it, because again, we've got some distance differences, some cultural differences. I think it would be just an interesting study, if nonetheless, to get their take on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, how long are the episodes that they're doing?
They can be rather long. They get into some great detail. I don't think I've found an episode that was 30 minutes or less. They've been pretty long.
Well, I think in some cases when you're going deep on, you're going deep on a movie that's 2 hours long or something like that, you might need that kind of time to do that. But, it just kind of helps to know what kind of, obligation you're signing up for when you pick out an episode.
Now, before we get to your show, we teased it up front. And it was funny because I knew the voice. And I wonder how many of our listeners are going to know the voice. But before we get to that, we'll be right back after this short break.
All right. Welcome back to Feed Drops. And as Brian mentioned before the break, the guest in this next show is somebody you might be familiar with if you are a podcaster or you are into podcast discovery. She wrote the newsletter that is one of the biggest newsletters in the industry for podcast discovery, Ariel Nissenblatt. But she's not the host of this show. She's actually just the guest on this episode. And the podcast is called Killing Time with Arch. And Arch is a guy that I met through TikTok. And we became friends just through having podcasts on TikTok together. And then we met up in person. And when I first met him, he was telling me, oh, I haven't been publishing in episodes in a while, but I did get this one out with Ariel on it. And so I thought, that's the show, that's the episode that I should pick to talk about here. I actually got a chance to be interviewed by Arch at Podcast Movement. We were in the booth, the HubSpot booth that you could sort of reserve, and we talked for his podcast. And I recorded a sort of special interview with him that we may use as a special episode sometime.
Can't wait.
But the sort of the frame of Killing Time, the podcast with Arch, is he's talking to other TikTokers, talking to other people who TikTok, whether they're about podcasts or just anything, musicians, other creatives. And so that's what he's talking to. That's what got him connected to Ariel, is because they are both on TikTok together. And I've interacted with both of them on TikTok. It felt like a really good fit for Feed Drops to kind of dig into. So we're going to go into this first bit. As a podcaster or any kind of creative, marketing is such a huge part of the planning. And so that's what this next bit is about.
It is definitely possible to grow your show at this point, but you need to build in marketing to every aspect of your production. And what I mean by that is definitely have a marketing plan. So when your episodes go live, what are you doing? But also, how can you make within your show more marketable? Are there opportunities for you to have guests call in so that they're so excited when their episode airs so that they want to share it with everybody, right? Or are there opportunities for you to have podcasters who podcast about similar topics plug into your show and vice versa, so that
you can get that much more exposure.
Yeah. And so, we don't necessarily have a marketing plan for this show, other than we make episodes and we do, a social media post per each episode on Instagram, or maybe we do have an informal marketing plan. But it made me think, oh, how could we put that marketing plan into place for our own show, model this behavior that we're learning about from Ariel? What did it make you think of?
It made me feel lazy and ashamed of myself. She's absolutely right. Back in the day, having a podcast was a marketing piece. Nowadays, and this is the crazy thing, with as few podcasts that there are actually out there, we now have to market harder than we used to. And I think realizing that, putting a plan and practice and good workflows in place is a reality if you want your podcast to be successful. And we can always do better. We can always do better. If you think you had a good week and then your social media and your marketing numbers are telling you had a good week, you can do better.
Yeah. Well, and it's often hard to know how much time to spend on creation and how much time to spend on marketing. And they're kind of intertwined because marketing is sort of creative act itself. But I think this next quote talks about sort of how much time to spend on which.
One thing I guess I'm realizing, though, which I think I understood to some extent before I started the show, but maybe didn't realize how time consuming it would be, but the importance of marketing. And I'm probably spending like half my time on that, I would say now.
You should. That's actually the percentage that I like to give.
Okay.
My marketing friend and I, Lauren Passell, we always say you should be spending 50% of your time on creation, 50% of your time on marketing. And you don't have to think of marketing as a chore. I freaking love marketing because it is inherently creative. You're thinking about ways to get your show in front of somebody else in a way that doesn't feel like you are selling to them. And that is a creative endeavor.
She is so right about that.
It's true. And I think that it's like we make it icky, or we make it like, oh, it's marketing, or, but it is. It's an extension of the creative process. And it sort of is, what did we make that was worth seeing? And how can I amplify that to people that are going to find it and be excited to have found it? So.
Yeah, personally with my own show, I had Joey, one of my employees, helping, and he was doing a good job of getting social posts out there and all of that. Well, the studio got busy, so I pulled him off my show so he could work on other, paying customers' shows. And I realized, a month into it, I've been doing social media posts promoting my own episodes to the very least. And I'm like, oh. So what I lacked was that workflow, was that system, which I've since rectified. So if you follow me on other shows, you'll see some more social coming out. Lynz, what is your walk us through what you do before you publish and after you publish an episode to draw eyes to it. Say, for this show, Feed Drops.
Well, I feel like I could do a whole, maybe a YouTube video on this at some point for us, but the creation, when we hit stop on this, you're going to take these files and you're going to upload them to our Dropbox. What I will go then do after is I go into Canva and I create some graphics. I take the show graphics for the shows that we covered, and I enter the information, and I create some letterbox ones and some square ones for Instagram. And so my workflow is I make all those graphics, save them to our Dropbox. And then when I go into Descript is what I use. When I'm editing the final podcast, I'm also making a video at the same time, and I can do that in Descript, and I can, from that same file, export the audio as an MP3, the video for YouTube and wherever else. The piece I'm paying attention to more these days is highlighting good quotes, interesting moments that we've done, something from between 20 and 60 seconds long. And as I'm editing, I'm highlighting those. And then I come back and I really quickly export and create those short vertical videos so that each episode generates between 5 and 10 vertical videos that over the next week I can be putting up on TikTok. We can be putting up onto YouTube Shorts. Need to get them up onto Reels and Instagram too, but you can't, it's hard to be everywhere at once. But I definitely try to create things as I go so that I can naturally put them into the flow. And if I notice that I get to the other end and I'm like, oh, there's something I wish I had now, I need to go back to Canva and make that a part of the template so that I'm making all the art at the same time. Anyway, so I like to think systematically like that. And I think it helps. And as I tool it, then I get better at sort of at knocking out steps 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15 at the very beginning. And then I'm picking up 3 and 4 here, 5, 9, 12, kind of just like, if you're aware of all the steps at once, you can do them out of order so long as nothing is needed for the next one.
Yeah, so you're batching what needs to be done while you're in this piece of video and getting all of those steps done and then coming back and eventually everything is done.
Yeah.
That's
and
very
it's a piece that has to be tweaked, right? Like every week we kind of go, oh, this worked well, or this didn't. I want to try it again differently.
And dude, it's funny because I'll be scrolling through TikTok and I'm like, oh, Lynz, and it's funny because I see you promoting, your company. I see you promoting feed drops. Then I'm cruising through. I'm like, I think I saw this video. I look down. It's a pod chaser TikTok and there's Lynz.
Yeah. I mean, I think that enlightened self-interest is tagging people and giving other people a chance to shine, looking for ways to let somebody else shine from your thing. And they're going to go, oh my God, me? Really? And people love that feeling. They love being recognized.
Well, you're crushing it, buddy. You keep it up. So what else? How do you want to close your highlighting this show?
Well, again, it's called Killing Time with Arch. And if you like learning about TikTokers and getting to know Arch, he's got a pretty big following on TikTok and a pretty swell guy, having met him in person. I would just, check out his show, Killing Time, and then follow him. His handle on TikTok is Gem City Dudist Priest, and it cracks me up. So check those things out. And of course, you can always follow us for more of what we do, here, our future episodes, and hang out with us on TikTok. I think this episode definitely says, come play with us.
In addition to come playing with us, if there's a podcast you listen to, let them know, let that podcaster know, hey, you should submit your show to Feed Drops. And we might just cover a show that you love as a listener of Feed Drops. It's an easy submission form, feeddrops.com. We look at them every week and, we pick a few shows that we're going to highlight throughout the next couple of weeks. So visit us there, hit us up on IG, Twitter, TikTok. We would love to interact with you more across these platforms.
Yep. DM us in any area and we would love to chat. Have a great week, y'all. See you next week.
Peace out. Sound. Is there something else we're supposed to record?
We had been doing the post things. Do you think those were worth doing? Or
I can just keep doing what I'm doing if you're fine with that. Well, or are we talking
I
about
meant the sort of the really short YouTube version, but we haven't been deploying them. The recap video.
Why don't we work that back into the process next week? How's that sound?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to push stop and see what we get.
Great.